to the floor, right, wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
Sophie Cunningham broke her silence after the most controversial loss of the WNBA season, and her 6 words will leave you speechless. The Indiana Fever just dropped a brutal 89-87 game to the worst team in the league, the Los Angeles Sparks. Not once, but for the 2nd time this season. But this wasn't just a loss. This was heartbreak wrapped in controversy.
We have a fun group, we have a goofy group, but sometimes you kind of need to get pissed off a little bit and dial in. I think that's what you saw today.
Marked by dirty plays, officiating that defied logic, and Sophie getting grabbed around the neck with no foul called. Her response, a smile, a laugh, and 6 words that flipped the narrative on this entire season. What did she say? Why does it matter? And what does it reveal about this team's true identity?
Howard looking backdoor for Mitchell, not there. Shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2.
It's good recognition.
If you ride with Sophie and the Fever, type it in the comments, Spicy Sophie. Let's go. Picture this. Just days ago, the Fever were riding a tidal wave of momentum, a 3-game win streak, 3 statement victories over some of the league's best.
This is a game that would have been great to have Caitlin Clark back in the second half. Just an extra playmaker on the court, doing the things that Caitlin Clark does. But I'm glad if it's rest or no rest. Last time she came back early, and guess what happened? She was overcompensating, even if she's 70, 80%, and she ended up getting another injury and being out twice as long instead of just holding off till she was 100%. And also coming back for one Sparks game.
They took down Paige Buchers and the Dallas Wings, then dismantled the Minnesota Lynx to claim their first ever Commissioner's Cup title. And for the grand finale, they dominated A'ja Wilson and the defending champion Las Vegas Aces in a performance that had analysts whispering the word championship. And here's the wildest part.
Indiana Fever fans, we came up short. We lost in the final seconds of this game, 89-87. We were up by 6 points with 5 minutes left, and also up by 4 points with 1:43.
Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the floor. Their superstar floor general, the engine of their offense, was on the sideline nursing a left groin injury, her 10th missed game of the season, and without her, everything changed.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
The Fever's identity, the crisp ball movement, the relentless pace, the rhythm that made them dangerous, slowed to a crawl. Aaliyah Boston, the post powerhouse who thrives off timely touches, barely saw the ball. Yet even without Clark, the Fever were still expected to cruise through this one. ESPN gave them a 72.9% win probability. Vegas had them favored by 6.5 points. It was supposed to be a routine win.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, A'ja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. Touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season, and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul after foul in the second half.
After all, the Sparks came in limping. 5 wins, 13 losses, no real threat on paper. The Fever were banged up, yes. Damaris Dantas was overseas competing in the FIBA Americup. And Dawana Bonner, she walked out. She quit on the team when they needed her most. Even still, Indiana should have won. But that's the cruel irony. Because just like earlier this season, the Sparks pulled off the upset again. And this time, the wounds cut deeper. The Fever missed their final 5 shots, 4 in the final minute, a 2-point loss that dropped them back to .500, 9 wins, 9 losses. But the scoreboard was only half the story, because what happened next sparked outrage across the league. The game had spiraled, tensions were high, and then the officials stopped doing their job.
to the floor, right? Wins this battle. That's Sophie Cunningham. Wow, I thought Van Loo grabbed her by the neck. Sophie, thankfully and fortunately, let that one go. They both got up smiling.
This is what I was talking about with Sophie Cunningham. Look at this. She literally grabbed her around her neck, and they called this a jump ball, and then threw her down the next play.
The calls turned bizarre, inconsistent, dangerous. And then, the moment that changed everything. In the middle of a loose ball scramble, Julie Van Loo grabbed Sophie Cunningham around the neck. Not incidental contact, not hand checking. A full-on grab right in front of the refs. And they just let it happen. No whistle, no foul, no review, just silence. Sophie's response? She smiled, she laughed. But not because it was funny, because it was expected. She knew the refs weren't going to protect her. She knew the message being sent. If you're on the Fever, you're on your own. Meanwhile, referees spent minutes reviewing plays that were clearly clean, like Sydney Coulson's block that was called a foul, then took ages to overturn. The contrast was painful. Clear fouls ignored, clean plays penalized. In a game this close, those calls matter, and they weren't just bad, they were dangerous. They put players at risk and tilted the game when every possession counted. Coach Stephanie White said it best in just 4 words. We didn't get the calls. Not an excuse.
And then threw her down the next play. And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player, and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on her.
A fact. That night wasn't about poor shooting or missed chances. It was about being failed by the very people meant to enforce fairness, and player safety completely forgotten. Yet even in the chaos, 3 Fever players showed exactly why this team still has championship potential. Aaliyah Boston went off for 23 points and 12 rebounds on 9 of 17 shooting. She was dominant in the paint, constantly creating second chance points and fighting for boards like the game depended on it, because it did. Kelsey Mitchell, the longtime Fever warrior, poured in 19 points and drained 3 crucial threes. It was her 251st game for the franchise, placing her second all-time behind the legendary Tamika Catchings. That's not just leadership, that's loyalty.
And this is 4th quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hall can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but they gave, this is the 4th quarter, and they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the 4th quarter. Nothing going on, just to put him at the line, and then Kelsey Plum, another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just out of bounds.
Natasha Howard, the veteran voice, delivered 21 points and 9 rebounds on an efficient 8 of 11 from the field. She passed the 2,000 career rebound mark during this game. Her presence was felt everywhere, but again, overshadowed by everything that went wrong. They gave everything, and it still wasn't enough. Indiana missed 7 free throws, committed 10 turnovers, and went cold in the game's final minute. But they fought hard, and through it all, there was one heartbeat that kept this team together. Sophie Cunningham, the one who took the hit, the one who got grabbed around the neck, the one who didn't retaliate.
Here's Mitchell off the screen, but can't connect on the 3. Boston offensive rebound, rolls it in and a foul. The 2 bigs bring the ball up the floor, and Hamby wasn't ready for that.
How about that change of pace, that burst like a guard, gets downhill to the rim.
Lob inside. Boston too far underneath. Shot clock down to 5. Kick out Mitchell. Oh, yes!
But stood tall. And after the game, she finally broke her silence. 6 words, that's all it took. I stick up for my teammates. Simple. Raw. Real. Because Sophie isn't just a role player, she's a protector, the one who absorbs the punishment so others don't have to. That's who she is. Remember earlier this season when JC Sheldon targeted her?
Busted them all up. We went to the same high school.
Howard left alone. Answers with a 3.
LA is so dangerous. They don't look like a 5-win team to me.
Oh, and there's Tipson sending it back.
Sophie commits a hard foul on JC Sheldon. Again, as JC Sheldon is going up for a layup, Sophie bear hugs her and takes her to the ground. What I will say is Sophie did not grab her and throw her to the ground. She didn't body slam her. She didn't do anything, in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm biased here, but I'm gonna give you guys my straight up honest opinion on this. She bear hugged her, took her to the ground. Yes, it was intentional. It was absolutely intentional.
It's cool. It's funny what kind of people are attracted to. You know, I'm just trying to keep the main thing. The main thing is that's basketball, trying to win games, sticking up for my teammates. And that's all part of it. I think all that stuff it's fun and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we need to win some basketball games. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do.
It's a pattern now. Players go after Sophie because she stands up when others won't. She's the backbone, the enforcer, the spark. When Clark went down, Sophie stepped up, not just in stats, but in leadership, in presence, in energy. When
being one of the new ones here,
Yeah.
but you're someone who likes to bring the energy,
Yeah.
whether we just saw what we saw, but regardless, can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I think that's just who I am. It's my personality. I'm the glue to it. We kind of have a weird age gap. We have some oldies on the team. We have some young bucks, and I'm kind of the tweener is what they call me. And so it's just trying to make everyone match and make sure we're all just having good vibes, right? The seasons has a bunch of highs and lows, and so just trying to keep a level head on everyone. But I also think that we get to play basketball for a living, and that's super fun. So sometimes you just need a good perspective of like, hey, we're in the grind right now, and it feels hard, but at the end of the day, we get to dribble a ball for a living, so we got to be grateful for that.
things got ugly, she kept her teammates locked in. When the refs failed to protect her, she smiled, because she already knew the cost of standing tall. And that smile, that was defiance, that was courage, that was Spicy Sophie being the soul of this team. Compare that with someone like Dawana Bonner, who walked away when the team needed her. Sophie stayed, she didn't complain, she led. That's the difference. This Fever team is building something rare, a foundation of selfless leadership and unshakable heart. And when Caitlin Clark returns, she's walking back into a locker room full of warriors who fought without her. A team that doesn't just want to win, they want to win together. That's why this loss, as painful as it was, proves something powerful. That this team isn't just about highlights and star power, it's about grit, loyalty, and players like Sophie Cunningham, who'd rather get grabbed around the neck than ever back down. Her 6 words: a promise, a mission, a legacy. I stick up for my teammates. And when this team finally makes that championship run, you'll remember those 6 words as the moment it all turned around. If you ride with Sophie, drop a Spicy Sophie in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this season isn't over. Not even close. Click the video on the screen to catch up on everything the league doesn't want you to see, and we'll see you in the next one.